Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Season 3, Episode 8, Ecuador Insider Podcast. Jesse Bayer, Ryan Pemberton, Carl Marsan, the podcast face of Abundant Living Ecuador. Thanks so much for tuning in. Okay, any business to get out of the way? Like, share, subscribe, please. We'd love to hear from you in the comments as well. We are going to launch a retreat here at some point. So I'm going to actually let Carl talk about it because you're good at talking about it, Carl. But if you're interested in checking out Vilcabamba, an exploratory trip to Vilcabamba, we're going to be launching a retreat here in the next couple of weeks. We're in the planning stages of that now. Carl, you want to do 30 seconds on how cool that's going to be?
Yeah, sure. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be really fun. We want people to get to know Vilcabamba, get to know the area. People that haven't been here before, people that are considering maybe moving here, relocating here. So we're basically going to do everything that Vilcabamba has to offer, all of the cool places to go, all of the hikes, the waterfalls, the Mandango mountains, the rivers, horseback riding. We're just going to offer a little bit of everything, show some properties as well for those who are interested. Go to the good restaurants, go do some fun activities together, get to know each other, and just enjoy what Vilcabamba has to offer. So we're really excited about offering that to you guys. If you're interested, please email us. We're going to give more information sooner. Sorry, there's some roosters right behind me. But that's Vilcabamba.
Roosters
So go ahead.
Yeah. All right, I was going to say, actually, so the retreat's going to be cool in that we'll also get you connected with all of our connections here. So whether that's visa work, whether that's, how do you buy a car, contacts for that, all of the different things will be discussed here. So we'll be having different seminars. That's a strong word, but, people can come and give talks and also get connected with the community here as well. So we're hoping that if you come and you do a retreat, you can make some lasting connections with the people who already live here. That way, when you transition and move down here, you've already got yourself grounded, established. You're part of all the WhatsApp groups, the Telegram groups, all of the email threads, and then you can, be a part before you actually transition here.
Yeah, and we'll probably do a whole episode on this in the next couple of weeks. So this is just a quick intro. Again, we're in the planning stages. It's been a lot of fun. I think we're putting together, really a great time for people who are coming down to check out the area. So more details to come. Just wanted to throw that out there. We had an overwhelming response to a 1-minute video we put out looking for real estate agents. So we're doing interviews for the next couple of weeks. We're also launching a whole bunch of other things, some of which I can talk about, some of which I can't. But I would just say if you're interested in being here and sort of being part of this, we'd like to hear from you. Construction type skills are interesting to us. Construction management type skills are interesting to us. Marketing skills are interesting. Probably 4 or 5 others I'm not mentioning because we weren't supposed to talk about this. Ryan, anything you want to throw out there real quick?
I mean, really administrative strengths could be interesting as well. Managing people and systems, processes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Agriculture as well. So anyways, we're building an amazing team and sort of a whole bunch of different businesses, and it's fun. And so if you're interested in that, if you have great skills, if you'd like to be in the area, we'd love to chat. Okay, there's a bunch of new content on the channel, number of interviews with visa specialists, etc. The visa rules changed a few weeks ago. In my opinion, they actually got a little better. Check those out. Check out the content on the channel. It keeps pumping out. We really are trying to do a lot of interviews with professionals. Ryan's building a house, and that's a very popular series as well. If you're looking to check out, construction in Ecuador and what that looks like. So definitely check all that stuff out. Okay, today's show is on really health experiences in Vilcabamba. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So it sort of comes off of, I think the idea maybe was spurred or, was what came from an article that we read in Cuenca High Life, which is a weird publication, but it's a pretty good place to get, some amount of news anyway from Ecuador. That Ecuador's life expectancy is higher than the U.S. and has been since 2017. The U.S. life expectancy actually decreased fairly significantly over the last 2 years. And there's, I think, 3 countries or 4 countries in Latin America that have a longer life expectancy than the U.S. I get, that's kind of interesting to me because in the context of sort of the image that people have of the U.S., right, of having sort of the best medical system or the best medical care, the most inventive new medical technologies and these sorts of things. But I think, the deterioration in lifestyle in the U.S. is now being seen in the life expectancy numbers, right? It's a high stress environment. It's hard to really live a clean, healthy life there. I'd say both physically and mentally. There's obesity, for example, is a huge problem in the U.S. Millions. We all know what all the issues are, right? And not to say that other places are the most healthy, right? People are people and they have their habits. We all do. But Ecuador, and certainly Vilcabamba particularly, is a place that really lends itself to a very healthy lifestyle. And it's interesting that some of these sort of aggregate numbers are bearing that out. So we're going to talk a little bit about Vilcabamba as it relates to our own health experiences or health in general. It's an interesting place, right? So, there's the obvious stuff. There's no winter. There's no industry. There's no pollution or contamination of any kind. So we know about that, right? There's sort of those basic things that are conducive to health. Then there's all the kind of like legend and myth stuff, which I have no idea. I don't think any of us do, how accurate that is or isn't. But, it's known as the Valley of Longevity. There's all sorts of, again, I don't know what you call them, myths, legends. There's all sorts of stories about people living, well into their hundreds. I don't think that's commonly the case, at least now. This is sorry, Jesse, this is Vilcabamba we're talking about. Wasn't quite specified. So we're talking a little bit about Ecuador as a whole, but in Vilcabamba, where we live, is dubbed the Valley of Longevity. So continue. Yeah. Thank you. So I don't know, I don't personally see that. I mean, there are elderly people in Vilcabamba certainly look good and are very strong into their later years, which is amazing. Like you'll see guys in their 80s and 90s, women too, throwing 100-pound bag of something over their shoulder and boom, up the mountain. You see that, but I don't know that people are living to be 120 commonly. I don't notice that, but they've done studies on that in the past. It may have been something that was going on, 30 years ago. I don't know, but there's all of these, there's all of these sort of myths and legends about that. There's apparently there's monatomic, I don't know if it's gold or different properties in the water that people talk about. There's Mandango, this sort of mythical mountain protector of the valley. It kind of looks like a sleeping Inca, I believe. It kind of looks like when you look up at it. And there's all these legends that I think it was the Incans that used to go up there to heal after battle and on and on and on. Right. So there's all this sort of stuff around Vilcabamba and health and healing and these sorts of things. And what's interesting is that it's attracted a lot of people who are interested in their health. And it's also attracted a lot of alternative health practitioners. So there's a really large community of high level alternative health practitioners, which for me, because I've had some health issues over the years, for me has been just an amazing blessing because I've had at my fingertips, literally right where I live, extraordinarily accomplished health professionals who can assist me and have actually done so. I've actually made, enormous progress on, working with people here who they're just local. They're just local, right? They live here, but they're, when you get to know them or you attend a workshop and they have all those kinds of opportunities, or you get to know them one-on-one or whatever it is, they're all very accomplished people, right? They've written books. They have training centers all over the world. They travel the world giving workshops and seminars. They're kind of famous people in the natural health world, the alternative health world. And they've kind of centered on Vilcabamba in a certain way. It's pretty unique that way. So that's my
I
intro.
suppose. Yeah, I'll interject here, Jesse. And you talked a little bit about the mythical or kind of like historical talk about the area and Mondango and all that stuff. I'd like to break it down to the simplicity of the area. And we've talked about this before, but the air is super clean, right? It comes out of the Amazon for the most part, flowing, rained on twice, and flows down over the Continental Divide and straight down into the Vilcabamba Valley, right? So if you have super clean air, I think just that right there is enough to get people healthy, right? And then if it's clean air, then when it rains, it's not raining acid rain, right? Polluted skies, when it rains, it'll bring all of that pollution to the ground, and then it's in the soil. So we don't have that here. So we have really healthy, clean, organic soil as well. So then you have the clean water, soil, you have really clean food. And when you're putting clean food in your body and you're drinking some of this water that comes straight out of the Podocarpus National Park, I think right there you have enough to just get well. I have a story. I have a relative who came down, and she had issues just eating any type of food in the US. And so she came down, and those foods were what were available to her. So she decided that she would try to eat them, and she could eat them with a breeze, like it wasn't affecting her system at all. And like, this was really astonishing to her, and she didn't quite understand it. And, like I told her, hey, I think basically this food is just clean. It's clean food. It doesn't maybe have some kind of contaminant in there that maybe your body's not quite dealing well with. And here you have nice, clean, organic food, and your body's like, hey, I'm good with this. So you add that along with a stress-free lifestyle. And I think people are really, enjoying themselves here for the most part, having that stress-free difference in lifestyle, slowing it down a little bit. And that's why a lot of people want to move here. Those simple things are huge factors in people's lives right now, is to get away from those stress points, that toxic environment that so many people talk about in the U.S. from, a social standpoint, or, a mandates standpoint from the governments or whatever. And you come here and you kind of have a spot and a place where you can escape from some of those things.
There's one thing I'd like to add to what Ryan said, which exactly as he said, the clean air, the clean water, the clean, healthy, organic food, the stress-free lifestyle. But also, I think one of the reasons for the local people here being so healthy and in shape is the physical activities, the part of the lifestyle. But the fact that we're in the Andes Mountains, there's a lot of hiking. There's so much physical activities that can be done here, and that's one of the reasons why these older local people, like you were referring to, Jesse, are in such good shape, are so fit. I have an anecdote. Ryan and I went to visit a property once before with this Ecuadorian family, right? And like halfway, like both Ryan and I are like tired, like sweating, we're like out of breath hiking this mountain.
It was like 10,000 feet, I think, at that point. It was, we were way up in elevation too. It's like one of the higher peaks in the whole area. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, the guy leading us, right, he's like way ahead of us. He's like, way ahead of us. He's waiting for us, sitting on a rock, smoking his like local tobacco, right? And we're like, we finally get to the top, and we're like, man, you're in great shape. Like, how old are you? I was like, maybe he's 50 years old or something, like 55 at the max. I think he was 70, 71 years old or something like that.
Yeah, he was.
Ryan and I are in our 30s, and the guy's like completely like out hiking us. And like, he just, campesino, right? Like from the countryside, he eats the local food, just used to like doing physical work like that. And a lot of the local people are like that. Like Jesse said, they carry some heavy bags of corn, and, they carry, like there's a neighbor here. He's an old guy in his 70s or 80s. He carries his big log of wood up the mountain every single day, right? You see him, Ryan, probably.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, incorporating that into your lifestyle when you come to live here definitely is going to help improve your health tremendously.
Those are great points. Yeah, I mean, the other thing too, right, is the culture. It's like people don't get themselves stressed out here, right? I'm not a health expert. I don't know, but I think it's a common belief that stress is something that causes bad health, right? And we come from a culture where we're all stressed. It's like we stress about everything. If we have the possibility of being 5 minutes late, right, we're in a tizzy. Like, we get stressed out in our culture. People just don't do that here. Like, people are very much, they take what comes. They don't spend a lot of time upset if something didn't go their way, or if something's different than they wanted. It's kind of like a kind of attitude towards life, I would say. And I think ultimately it's really healthy. I think people are in a good mental state as well, right? So it's all those factors. It's the air and water and food and all those things, Ryan, that you mentioned. It's the physical activity that you mentioned, Carl, and then it's the mental state, right? So they kind of have the trifecta of health, things that lead to good outcomes for health. I also just want to second, that anecdote you gave, Ryan, about the family member of yours. I've seen that with clients over and over and over and over again, where clients come in one state of health, whether it's, whatever it is. And then I see them a period of time later, and just visibly, they just look way better. And then when you talk to them, because, usually you become friends. And so when you talk to them, they immediately start sharing their story. Like, I've experienced this. I've experienced this. It's amazing. I don't know what it is. I feel so better. And that story that you mentioned, that's a common one. I've heard that a number of times. People who have food allergies or things they can't eat generally because it messes with their system in one way or the other, they can eat it here, whether it's wheat or, right, whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah, so true. I know you probably have a few notes, but while it's on my mind, Jesse, let's talk a little bit about the hospitals here. Because if you're going to talk about health, let's talk about the hospitals. And then let's also talk about the alternative health practitioners here. A lot of people who come here are looking for natural health, but that's not everybody. And, not everybody even knows even what natural health practitioner would really even mean. What does that entail? So we can go into that. But the hospital here in Vilcabamba is more like an emergency clinic. We wouldn't really characterize it as a mainstream hospital. But in Loja, 40 minutes from Vilcabamba, there are a handful of really good private hospitals that you could go to for all of your surgeries, minor electives, those things. And of course, if you had an emergency with your health, you could just shoot up in a taxi. Don't wait for an ambulance. I don't think. I think you just shoot up in a taxi. It's the quickest, easiest way to get up there. That kind of a thing. And you can get great healthcare. I mean, I've heard some amazing stories of people going up there, getting treated like kings, basically. Really good attention, which in the States, I think that's hard to come by right now because they just see so many people. I don't know what if it's some nurses. Come on, hands down, you guys are awesome, and we appreciate all that you do. But I think there are some who have just become complacent a little bit. And I've worked in hospital and logistics, and I've seen, these guys are stressed out, but the top down, they put pressure on all of the staff. And I mean, it's pretty intense, but, I'd say here, they really do care and give attention. I don't know if it's just because we're expats or not, but they're private, right? So like public healthcare here, you can go into a public hospital and get your cast on your leg because you just broke your leg. You're in there for a day or two or something. You walk out, it's free. So the lines are long, and that kind of care is more questionable for sure. But these private hospitals, they do care. They have state-of-the-art equipment, all the new machines, and so I haven't been there to actually get this help. Thankfully, I haven't needed it, but there are reports, and maybe Jesse, Carl, you guys have some firsthand experience or secondhand.
You're muted, Carl.
I was waiting for maybe you had some experience. Yeah, I've had a little bit of experience, especially with San Agustin is one of the main private hospitals in Loja. Yeah, really good experience, really good. Just like what Brian said, I think it's very good. I mean, it's typically, I think, more for the upper echelon of Ecuadorian society. So it's very high level Like you said, state of the art, equipment and stuff like that. And it's not like majorly expensive either, right? But most of the locals probably go to public hospitals. I don't know.
It's cheap. It's cheap. I mean, remember we had some friends that had their son go up there. He had something happen to, I think, his toe, and they went up, and he was up there for, I don't know how long it was. I think it was that issue, right? Like, I think he was up there for a week or something like that. And I don't know. I forgot how much they paid, but I remember they were like ecstatic. Like, how could it be this cheap? Like, I feel like I need to pay them more, including the food and, the care and everything else. And, in the States, that would have been like $100,000. And I think they paid like, $1,200 or, something really low like that. So, you come down here and you might not need health insurance per se, right? Like, you can get it, but you maybe just wait for something to happen and then just pay it because it's not that expensive.
I mean, it is a requirement for your visa, but the point taken, and some people drop it anyway, which you can, absolutely.
After 6 months, I believe.
Yeah. No, I don't know if you were finished, Carl, or do you want me to jump in? Yeah, I mean, I would just second, very much what you guys are saying. And I think partly it goes back to the culture again, right? So the U.S., and I can't talk about other places well, right? That's where I'm from. But the U.S. has a very transactional culture at this point. It's like what, people interact with each other sort of based on what they can get out of the interaction, right? And so when you're in a hospital or a health care environment, you're in that same environment. It's run by a corporation that's all about the bottom line. You've got the insurance companies involved. You've got layers of bureaucracy and rules and fears of lawsuits and regulations and so on and so forth. And it creates a crappy environment. It creates an environment that's difficult to have great outcomes that are inexpensive. You don't have that here, right? So the government is not highly involved at all in healthcare. They run the public healthcare system, which I agree with Ryan is not fantastic, but it's fine it's okay for emergency care. And even if you have an emergency in Vilcabamba and you rush to the clinic there, they will take you to Loja in an ambulance quickly if it's a dire situation. But yeah, it's not a great hospital, obviously, in Vilcabamba. And yes, there can be waiting times and things like that in the public system, I think, like anywhere in the world. But as soon as you get outside of that, into the private care, as Ryan is mentioning, the service is fantastic. The quality of care is fantastic. And it's, as you said, Ryan, it's shockingly cheap. Like you're like, what? What do you mean it's only $30? Like, it's so inexpensive. And the culture, again, right? It's a very human culture here. So you're not going to be treated like a number. You're not going to be treated like let's get this guy in and out so I can build the insurance company and move on to the next client. Not at all. I've had experiences with medical doctors in Loja that were just, I didn't know that existed, because my experiences came from the States with that, where I basically avoided ever going to a doctor because I just didn't like the way they treated me. It was like, you're in there, you're in and out there. They don't care. They don't look at you in the eye. They're just writing stuff down. Blah, 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 it's awful, right? I'm in Loja having these, having things done. They're taking their time. They're sitting with you. They're talking with you. They're trying to figure it out. They're really looking into it. They're asking you all kinds of questions. I had a guy, at one point with a stethoscope listening to my stomach, as a medical doctor, right? And he did all the tests as well, right? They have all access to all the normal stuff, of course, but they also actually take your health into consideration. Another nice thing about that sort of standard medical stuff here is that most of your medications that are prescription back home, many of those are over the counter here. So you do need a prescription occasionally for certain things, but most things you can just go to the pharmacy and buy. There was a big controversy in the U.S., right, about another place about ivermectin and other things like that. That kind of stuff here is just an over-the-counter. It's $5, purchase, right? And that's true of most medications. Like I've had various medications I needed to buy. the doctor just wrote them down for me. He wasn't giving me a prescription. He was just saying like, go buy this. And that's true of all kinds of stuff. So it's just a more human system. I think the care is great. As you said, they have all the technology. There's not anything that they're missing. And even, you know, Carl, you mentioned, and you might be absolutely right about this. You know, you mentioned that certain classes the lower classes would probably go more to the public hospital. And that may be true, but there's all kinds of like, I don't know how do you describe them, sort of cooperative based or community based health insurances for different groups of people. So if you're in agriculture in Ecuador, you have the option of buying into that $5 a month or something, you know, insurance that allows you access to those clinics and things like that. So a lot of families in Ecuador, you know, use the private system as well, even from, you know, any walk of life. But certainly, yeah, middle class, upper class would never go to the public hospital ever, probably. Lower classes, maybe occasionally for certain things, but I think a lot of them as well, you know, use the private hospitals and clinics as well.
Sure, exactly. One thing I'd like to add, you were talking about the medicine, and I have a bit of an anecdote. My dad was here visiting recently, Vilcabamba, and he takes like blood pressure medicine, right? We're from Canada. He's from Canada. So I can't remember the exact figure, but he went to the pharmacy and he like ran out of his prescription. So he like went to the pharmacy to buy some. And I forget what he said exactly, but I believe he was paying normally like $60 a month or something for his medicine. And he went over to the counter to buy 1 month's supply, right? And then they give him a figure, and he's like, he gave a $20 bill, and they gave him all this change back, and he's like, what? Like he thought it would be more than $20, but it was like $1.50 or $2 for the same medicine that he takes that normally cost him, I believe, $50 or $60 a month, or maybe even more. Anyway, so that's very interesting. A lot of the medicine is way cheaper here. I think it's just like at cost kind of thing. I don't know if it's subsidies or how it works, but for some reason the medicine is extremely cheap. Another thing too about Loja, compared to maybe other cities, is Loja is not a big city, right? It's about just under 200,000. So I think that feeling of like everyone knows each other, the more human side, we see it a little bit more here in Loja, in our area, than you would, for example, in Quito or Guayaquil, like where there are millions of people, you know. Definitely, it's a big plus about the area here. It's not a huge city, but it's still a city, so it's nice.
Well, speaking of Quito and Guayaquil, there's every type of medical treatment here in Ecuador. So if Loja can't get it done because it's something specific that you need done, you can get it done in Guayaquil or Quito. There was a guy here who was having trouble walking. I think he was in he basically couldn't walk. And he got some stem cell, I think it was stem cell, right? Jesse, you probably know this. Carl, you too, right? Stem cell work out of Guayaquil. This guy was doing it there. And the guy's biking now. He bikes everywhere. So, it's not only is he walking, he's biking. So, that kind of medical care is available here. Pretty much anything you can think of. And yeah.
Yeah, there's on that stuff, on the alternative health practitioner stuff, I believe, if I have this right, that's a constitutionally protected activity, essentially, and there's no regulation at all. So all those technologies and all those treatments and those things that are banned in the US, maybe by the FDA or the MMA or whatever it is, are not here. So you have a lot of people who have come here to set up shop, who practice things that Jay just can't back home. So that's really interesting too, to your point, Ryan. Yeah, that's all I got on that. Anything else?
Well, maybe you want to list the type of alternative health practitioners that are here. Like what's available? I think you're more knowledgeable than Ryan and I, Jesse. Maybe you want to go through like a list.
Yeah, I haven't prepared one, but I'm happy to talk about some of the stuff I know. I think, honestly, like if I could sum it up, I don't know that there's a whole lot of things that people would know about and have heard of that are not available here. And I mean that. And they're really, again, in my experience, these are not quacks. You know, these are not sort of low level, just learning, trying to figure it out, you know, people. These are really high level professionals who have a mission in life to help people. You know, they're not in it for the money. They're not, you know, it's just amazing. And I think it runs the gamut really of services from, you know, from sort of mainstream, or I should say more traditional, you know, more traditional, but alternative, right? Health practitioners, like people who do live blood analysis, people who do, you know, who analyze urine and feces and all these kinds of things, and look at all that stuff, right? So there's several people like that. There's, you know, some that I won't mention names on the show because I don't know if they want those shared, but you know, there's one in particular who I actually interviewed the other day for another thing I do, and I've worked with him. I mean, he's unbelievable. And again, I think, you know, if we were back home, he was mentioning to me that, at least I think it was in Canada, I don't remember if it was US or Canada. No, I think it was US actually. The live blood analysis that he does is banned. You know, he's not allowed, you know? And so, you know, he has clients all over the world, but he can't even send them in the US to get that part of, you know, he wants that information, right? So he can help them. He can't get it if they're in the US. Here, you know, that costs nothing and he can do it. And he, you know, he takes, anyways. So there's all that kind of stuff. Then there's, you know, sort of the stuff that's less, you know, less traditional as well. And the whole gamut, right? So there's people who are working on your energy bodies and doing all that kind of stuff. There's osteopaths, you know, there's all kinds of chiropractors. There's everything. I mean, there's almost, and then again, the sort of like out there techniques, you know, sound healing, or, you know, I haven't done really that kind of stuff, but it's there. It exists for sure. And some of, you know, again, the people who are here who are good at what they do, who I think is probably 70% of the health practitioners that are operating here are like really, really good at what they do. Those people, again, are very accomplished. You know, these are usually not young people. They're usually people, you know, in their 50s, 60s, who have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years all over the world. You look them up, again, they've written books. They're all over YouTube. You know, they're giving conferences, they're giving talks, they're setting up training centers, you know, in various places, and they live here and they're happy to see you for $30, $50, $60, you know, whatever it is. You know, there's people who have these very advanced technologies. I'm not a details guy. I don't even know what they are, but there's people that have these very advanced technologies that has a whole sort of clinic set up where, you know, you go to the different stations and do this incredible stuff that, you know, again, not legal in the places we come from. So, you know, it's all in Vilcabamba, right? This tiny little town of, you know, maybe 8,000 people at this point or something. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So my wife, sorry, Carl, I'll just
go ahead.
Say something here. Yeah. So my wife, Amy, she's a holistic physical therapist, and she's been, you know, treating here for the last 4 years. And she was constantly booked out 2 to 3 weeks, you know. She's of course amazing at what she does. She does a lot of manual therapy, right? Work with the hands, cranial sacral therapy, myofascia release, just working with, you know, fascia, all of that good stuff. And she found it interesting that there was a guy who is amazing at cranial sacral therapy. And she had taken continuing education classes from this guy in the States, you know, when we were living up there, right? Because he's the best at it, right? You know, that's, well, you know, right? You're getting all your information you're learning from this guy, and all of a sudden he moves here. And she's like, what? You know, so now that guy's here. He's treating people. And I went with kind of a neck issue, kind of like a tense shoulder type thing. And, you know, one session, it's gone. So a lot of those types of things you can get done here. Like, just if you have pain in your body, come to Vilcabamba. the pain's going to go away. Basically, that's the moral of the story. No doubt about it.
All right, gentlemen, we are up against Carl. You're hard cut. So if you wanted to see more of this show, blame Carl. He's got to go. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Again, if you have topics you'd like us to discuss, please put them in the comments. If you have your own health experiences, please put them in the comments. If you have questions on maybe specific health practitioners that you might be looking for, please put them in the comments. I could even see Vilcabamba in the coming years become sort of a medical tourism destination for sort of like the alternative health practitioner world. Because there's just so many of them here. In fact, we should set up that business, guys. That would be fun. But again, thank you all for tuning in. So any last words before we wrap, guys?
I do have one more thing, Carl. So yeah, if you guys have any interest in learning more about this retreat, it excited you, you thought, wow, a retreat where you can, come down and get to see the whole area, all of that. If it sounds interesting to you, please #retreat in the comment section. That way we'll also know you've made it to the end. We do appreciate your support.
Excellent. Carl, you looked like you wanted to talk.
I was just going to mention that just about the retreats that we were planning on having some of those alternative health practitioners do presentations. So for those who are interested, please let us know if that's something you'd be interested in as well in the comment section. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. So again, season 3, episode 8, I believe, Ecuador Insider Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.